Greetings and welcome to the first installment of Science in a Mason Jar. I'm your friendly summer scientist, Yardley, Yorkshire, and I'm going to be bringing to you Science in a Mason Jar, where we're going to do fun, inexpensive, quick science experiments. It's a fun thing to do with your children at home for the summer. So even though they might say, this is school, but this is fun school. Keeps the brains going, keeps the kids occupied, doesn't take up a lot of the time so they can have time for all of the other activities that they so enjoy. Okay? The mason jars are very inexpensive. You will find most of the things that we do this summer are going to be things that are found inside of your home. Okay? If you don't have any mason jars hanging around in the cabinet, you can always go to Walmart, Dollar General, Dollar Tree, or even Family Dollar and pick up some very inexpensive ones. You don't have to necessarily have this size, but just get you some mason jars. Our first Science in a Mason Jar experiment is going to be called the Incredible Inedible Egg. It's a science experiment, but hey, we all have these in our refrigerator. What are we possibly going to do? Let's look at the materials and the directions. For our first experiment, the Incredible Inedible Egg, the materials we're going to need are a wide mouth, pint-sized mason jar. Of course, this raw egg. We're going to measure out a cup, 1 1/2 cups of vinegar. And then we're going to carefully, without breaking this, place this egg in the jar. Then we're going to add the vinegar. You're going to keep the lid off the jar so that the gases can escape. Then you're going to observe the changes over the next few days. You can either write in your journal what happens, or you can capture the changes using your cell phone or a tablet. It is up to you. But you're going to be amazed at what happens to this egg. So if you notice, this says part 1. We're going to come back with a part 2 in a few days, and I'm going to show you, because I'm going to record what happens to this egg as it goes through the process over the next few days. And then I'm going to give you some tips on some other ways that you can extend this experiment. Remember the title, The Incredible Inedible Egg. Do not, I repeat, do not eat this egg at the end of this experiment. All right, so let's get started. Let's first begin by removing the top from the mason jar. And because this egg is raw, we have to be very careful, which is why it needs to be a wide mouth so that you can actually get your hand down into the jar to place the egg, because you don't want to just drop it in the jar. It's going to break if you do. So very carefully, take it, put it in the jar, carefully, make sure you don't drop it, and voila, you have your egg inside your jar. Now, we need 1.5 cups of vinegar. So we have our vinegar, we have our measuring cup. And first, we're going to measure a whole cup. We're going to turn that around there. We want to measure that whole cup of vinegar. And then we're going to pour it into our jar with our egg. And then we're going to measure a half more cup. So that's your half cup. And now we're going to add that to our jar. Remember, do not put the lid back on the jar. The lid needs to stay off the jar so that the gases can escape. Put the top back on the vinegar because you don't want that all over the place. Now, let's take a look. If you look closely, you see that there are bubbles already forming all over this egg. And you can see that and look, the egg is rising. Okay, so let's think about what might possibly happen to this egg. What do we think is going to happen in a few days? Okay, or is the egg going to stay at the top of the jar? Is it going to go back to the bottom? What's going to happen to the shell? Is it going to stay? Is it going to fall apart? Is the egg going to shrink? Is it going to enlarge? Stay tuned for part 2 of the Incredible Inedible Egg with your friendly summer scientist, Yardley, Yorkshire. Ta-ta for now.